Going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here at Dean7904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry. It is 5:30 in the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So, of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is still called Grinderslive. Joining me today, the GPP Slayer, the GPP Savant. It's Andre. Andre, what's going on? It's a very intimate show, just the two of us. How are things in your world?
Everything's going pretty good over here. Just trying to hang in there. Trying to take down some GPPs. I was disappointed with my performance in the Mlb maker last night in DK, but going to bounce back today before I get ready for the football season, and hopefully have a good night.
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot more football season because it was just released today. The schedule's out there today. If you want to see all the shows that we have, and there's probably not all more tweeted out, but Dan Bach, he tweeted out a whole bunch of what's going on as far as our football content. But we, along with Grant, will be on a part of the Sunday show. I'm also going to be on Monday nights with Grant and Keach, who works in the projection team. We're going to be watching the Monday Night Football game live for like 3 hours or so, just watch party. And Grant is just an awesome, like in-game live bettor. And he'll be telling you he's betting thousands of dollars while watching the game together. And we'll tell you guys, hey, this is who we like this evening, and feel free to tag along. And of course, if you guys want Grant's bets and a whole bunch of other smart people's bets, check out the scores and odds. I'm not sure what our package is. I imagine there's something, there's got to be a link that Devin can drop. I'm sure we can find one for the people out there. Get yourself some scores and odds. Yeah, there's so much football content. We're running up on the YouTube, so much stuff behind the scenes. Now's a good time to throw out the promo code as well. If you guys want, well, you don't want just football, you want baseball too, because you're here for baseball. You get all the other sports as well. Football, baseball, basketball, college football, MMA, golf, hockey, esports, everything with the exception of NASCAR. Either way, if you want just one sport or all the sports there, you get $10 off your first month. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So 8 days, Thursday. I guess we can call it the official. I know the big one is Sunday when you get to sit around and watch the, the Red Zone channel, and you can tilt your face off for every single play and every single game. But it's exciting, man. I'm looking forward to it. It finally hit me. Once we get in single digits, I get excited. So I think we're finally there. All the preseason games are over. Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Yes, I definitely am. I'm excited for it. Been waiting for this to come through and dreading the losing streak I've been on. I look forward to going heavy week one, because week one is the best week I feel for GPP players, because everyone doesn't know the outcome of everything. Different things have changed with teams coming around. So I look forward to it, and I'm glad that I'm actually been brought on to do the morning show actually too. That Sunday morning, kick things off for everybody, and hopefully give some people some good places that win them a lot of money.
Yeah, excited to have you. I think it's 10:30 in the morning we're starting. And then Ben Gretsch and Eric Beinfor, they have a show following us, and there's a premium show following us as well. Take you guys straight up the lock. But yeah, and what you said, of course, we'll talk baseball in a second. It's a 9-game slate, and it's really, really straightforward. I promise you, we have plenty of time to talk baseball. But yeah, week one, because everybody thinks they know. Well, this guy's bad. This guy's good. This offense is going to be great. And we don't really know. We think we know. We don't really know. We have a good idea. We can guess. We'll be wrong plenty, right enough. But like you said, and also people are staring at the same matchups for 2-3 weeks now, and every content is just focused on that for 2 or 3 weeks. And it's like you said, a contrarian's dream. And I have to turn my brain on for that, for tournaments for sure. I'm looking forward to being a little bit different football season. But I should mention, you know what, we'll mention it later on in the show. We'll mention it now. Let's knock it out. Let's tell the people what the DFS. The NFL Dfs webinar, we're having that go down tonight as well, 7:30. I'm hosting it. 3 very, very sharp dudes will be joining me. STL Cards, Justin Van Zuten, Head Chopper, 2-time millionaire winner, Notorious. You guys know how good Notorious content is. He's won 6 figures multiple times, Cards as well. And just, it's kind of sort of somewhat geared towards beginners, but it's also a refresher. And if you guys want an invite to that, go ahead and check out the forums at Rotogrinders or the Rotogrinders Twitter. And you can go ahead. It's invite only. You can't just jump on YouTube. It's on YouTube, but you just got to get invited to it. There you go. Doesn't cost you anything. Have at it. And we'll be talking, cash game strategy, tournament strategy, all sort, high effort as far as, if you're kind of still tinkering your game, you want to refresh stuff, and also beginner stuff. Like I play season long and I'm really good at that. And I live in Arizona, and now DFS is a thing. We're going to try to make it so you're not, terribly overwhelmed. All right, on to tonight's baseball slate. 9-gamer. We lost a couple games to weather. Mets are not playing. Marlins are not playing. Washington and Philly as well. I mean, you can argue there's more than 2 studs in the slate tonight. We'll have that conversation, but I think amongst the studs, I think Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer are the studs amongst the studs. Is that fair to say?
That is totally fair to say.
And DK made it really, really, really easy for us to play both of them. And now, if you're a cash game player, I think you're supposed to play those 2 cash game guys and just figure it out from there. But you're a tournament guy, and you know that Max Scherzer and Garrett Cole are the 2 best pitchers, but you also know they're going to be 2 most heavily owned. How do you handle that? There are some pivots we'll talk about in a second, but are you taking big stands in that either way?
On DK, I'm trying to, but it's kind of hard because you want to have 50-50 of each guy. So I'm just going to try to limit the amount of lineups I have with both of them in there, or if I do even have both of them in there. I have a stack today that I really am probably going to be definitely overweight on. I don't think it's going to take too much to get overweight on them. That would help out to make myself contrarian, but definitely will have probably just out the field, if not a little bit more. I lean more towards Garrett Cole, though. I'm not going to lie. The matchup to me is just a little bit better against the Angels, a little bit more strikeout heavy lineup, even though both of them are phenomenal pitchers, and Max Scherzer's obviously one of the best pitchers in the league too. But I just will be definitely at the field on DK. But lean more towards Garrett Cole and probably a little bit more exposure to him for sure on both sides.
Yeah, Garrett Cole is like a 1K cheaper, a meaningful difference on DK. It's just I don't understand that pricing. And like you said, that lineup of the Angels today, if you pull up the Open IQ, with the exception of Fletcher, who leads off, he's kind of annoying. He's not a great bat, but he'll put the ball in play. He'll have those 7 or 8 pitch at bats sometimes. Besides him, like everybody else strikes out a good bit. Ohtani's awesome, but he strikes out 30% of the time versus your average righty. Everybody else striking out at least 25%, collectively 26.8%. Also, this is a local time. It's a 4:00 game in Anaheim, and I don't know if you know Boggs Light. Boggs Light is he's a big fan. He's an Angels fan. Does some RG content here. I think he does some hockey content. I'm not sure if he's still lurking or where he is. Pops up here and there, but he always used to talk about the Marine Lair. But the other thing that's worth noting: 4:00 game in Anaheim. They have shadows. Like they have shadows for like an hour or so. And like that makes it even harder to hit the ball, obviously. And I just think that I think it's going to be a rough start for this game, especially on the Angels side offensively. I love Cole. I think he's awesome. I like Max as well, too. We'll talk about Scherzer in a second as well, which is why it's really hard for me to get away from those 2 on DK. I understand that's like the quote unquote super obvious build. Just because it's obvious doesn't mean it's not like the right thing to do necessarily, but then ownership. Atlanta, we don't have a lineup yet for Atlanta, but I'm assuming Albies is not going to be playing, right? Did he get carted off last night? They said it wasn't necessarily as bad as they first thought, but I can't imagine he goes tonight. Atlanta just significantly weakens their lineup. Currently, we have projected Peterson leading off. He's got some power, obviously, an interesting leverage play against Scherzer, but it's just down the line. It just makes that lineup a little bit rougher. Adrianza, they're expecting to replace him. He's not very good. Talking about Max Scherzer, who's been like great this year and even better as a Dodger.
Yeah, ever since he came over to being like a Dodger, he's back to he was even good beforehand, but his strikeouts are up even higher than what they already were, which is amazing. He's limiting hard contact too, significantly since he came over in the trade. It's overall just me. I don't know if he's just been rejuvenated with life because he just finally got out of Washington, but it seemed like he's just become a much better pitcher than he already was when he was already great to begin with. So to me, like even though he's the secondary player just because of the matchup, I still like him a lot, obviously, but we know there's some of these bats in this Atlanta lineup can definitely hit and put the ball into play, and he still has, I know, in the season been giving up a little bit more to lefties. but he's still striking out both sides of the plate a lot at a really high clip. So I still like the matchup, and it's going to be probably with just one guy in a lot of projectiles that we have right now with the strikeout rate of like less than what 20, 23. Yeah, and that's Freddie Freeman, who is definitely great as a one-off, but I wouldn't even take no stance on that today in this type of environment. Unless you're doing it at GPP, honestly, but there are other good plays on the slate tonight, in my opinion. But yeah, other than that, it's hard to not like Matt Scherzer making me number one option. And I like both, like I said, both options, Cole and Scherzer, but to me, Scherzer is just one A, one B, just because of the matchup against Atlanta, who can definitely still put the ball in play with some of their hitters that they have.
Yeah, with the Dodgers, the strikeouts have jumped to 35.7%. It was good, 34.6 on the season, 4.3% as far as the walks. So not walking anybody, striking a bunch of dudes out. The Sierra is reflective as well at 2.6. And like you said about like him being rejuvenated, it's like you look at spreadsheets and spreadsheets can't show this, but if you watch Max Scherzer pitch, you know this is like the most competitive guy in the world. He's like cursing the batter out like as he's pitching to him. Like he's got to be thrilled to be on the Dodgers and like going from a team that's like, you know, just playing up the string to now pitching meaningful games. So I don't know how to quantify that. I don't know what to do with that, but I just think he's excited. He just can't wait to get the ball and go out there and crush. And with the World Series on layaway in his brain, like is that like, I don't know if that's a thing, if it's not a thing, but like if it is, it's a thing for him.
As a competitor, I think it is a thing because you know that you're in a better situation. You know that you're definitely in a better, but you have a better chance of winning it all, and you're giving yourself the best opportunity. Granted, he's won a World Series before, but it's nothing like probably getting back there and being a champion. You want to win as many as you can, and just like I said, the competitive drive in him just probably, like I said, just rejuvenate him a little bit more, give him a little bit more juice, and just say, like, you know what, let's just attack. Let's just go out here and be dominant once again.
So we mentioned there was other aces, and there are other aces on this slate. Carlos Rodon, when there's kind of holes you can poke in them. Carlos Rodon's coming back. The White Sox, they Giolito. I guess that was cautionary last time. I don't think it's anything too serious about Giolito, but they have their eyes on the playoffs. Rodon coming back from the IL. I can't imagine they push him too far tonight. Maybe they give him 5 innings or so or something like that. Maybe he throws 85, 90 pitches. But he's essentially the same price. Actually, he's more expensive than Garrett Cole. It doesn't mean, he's facing a bad Pittsburgh team. Of course, they grab a DH, but their DH is not very good. And then there's Chris Sale. Boston is still fighting for a playoff spot. They're not going to win that division. They have to get a wild card. The Rays have just blown that division out essentially, but they're still well positioned. Yeah. So, and Chris Sale, of course, since coming back, he's not getting pushed too hard as far as his pitches. And if anything, has been like an innings limit as well on him too. Like they basically cap him at 5 innings. So the ceiling is shut a little bit. Doesn't mean those guys can't strike out 10 or 11 people. Like for sure they can do that in 5 innings. And if you pull up the Ks in the season, surprisingly, at least to some extent, Rodon is a 35.1% K rate, the biggest K rate in the slate. Sale, small sample of 15 innings with 34.4% as far as the Ks. But again, maybe the ceiling is hampered a little bit. What do you do with Rodon and Sale knowing that? But the matchups, well, I would say the matchups are good, but I'm sure Tampa's got 9. They got 9 righties against Sale, right? That's what they do. I imagine that's what they have.
I'm assuming they have to have 9 righties against them. They have to. It's 10, but they got 1, 2, 9 except for Wendell.
Joey Wendell.
That's the only person. Other than that, everyone's a righty in the lineup. So I love the matchup more for obviously Rendon, but him coming back off the IL, that's a little bit, it worries me a little bit. I'm going to have some exposure to him in tournaments, but I'm going to be definitely under the field on him because I want to just get a feel for the game and see how his pitch count is and where he's at when his first came back. He should theoretically have a dominant matchup game against Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh sometimes plays well, and I don't know why, but they do. But I still think Rendon obviously is one of the top pitchers, so it shouldn't be any different. So, but like I said, I'll have less exposure to him in tournaments just because the price is so high on him too. So he was a little bit cheaper, probably around like, if he was probably like 9K, I probably would maybe try to get at the field with him. But since he's 10-1 on DK, to me, I can't get with that.
Like you're completely disincentivized to roster Rodon over Cole. Cardi's, I just hope that the Blatt, I was combining Blatt and Blitz, and I made up a word that does not exist. I hope the Blitz, of course, for football, that's available now. Get the bat there from Cardi. He has the projection as of right now for Rodon at 82 pitches, which, yeah, that sounds about right. 82 pitches. And for Chris Sale, he's got it at 87. We've seen since Chris Sale has come back off the IL, obviously he was gone for a long time, 89, 71, and 80 his last time out, and always at least 5 innings, but no more than 5 1/3.
So
yeah,
he's
like, yeah.
out of, sorry, I just want to say he's out of play then on FanDuel unless he's just striking everyone out like 3 at a time, like 3 straight pitch, like 3 in a row. You're out of there. Other than that, on 9 pitches. Otherwise, I can't play Chris Sale on FanDuel because you're not gonna get the quality start. And probably won't be either for Randone, but they make a great tournament places because of the strikeout upside. But I think they're lesser. They're more of a DK. These are definitely more DK plays than FanDuel plays for sure. I just want to make that note.
I just want to see the Boston bullpen, like how hard it's been working. I know they were hit with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
It was mostly their hitters. So I'm looking at their bullpen, and they seem pretty well rested considering. So just want to see if they need them to eat a couple innings, and not necessarily.
They haven't been great lately, though.
Yeah,
but it's not been that great. So that also makes you want to maybe possibly still go with some Tampa Bay bats in tournaments. But you just got to worry about, like you said, are they going to switch the hitters out, which the coach tends to do.
So all of this we're talking about is reflective currently in our ownership. It's more refined the closer we get the lock. But right now, DK specific out of roster 2, we have Cole and Scherzer at 44% and 41% respectively. And I think that's correct. It's probably not going to get much lower than that. I don't think. Like it's hard to imagine people like not clicking at least one of those dudes. Certainly you can in tournaments. That's definitely a way to be different and something worth exploring, especially in MME contests. We mentioned Rodon, he's at 23, and we mentioned Sale at 15, and then Gausman in between. He's got a pretty reasonable price, but he's kind of stepped back a little bit, Kevin Gausman. I think it's reasonable to say he was pitching over his head earlier in the year. He's still fine. Your thoughts as far as Gausman at 8.7?
I'm gonna have a little bit of him, but like you said, the numbers are starting to come back up a little bit. He's giving a little bit more hard contact in the past 30 days than he was beforehand. His strikeouts, I think, have remained the same. Strikeout rate, I think, has remained the same. No, has dipped a tiny bit, but not really that much. And he also is giving up lesser fly balls amount too. So I mean, he's still a good option against Milwaukee, who does have somewhat of has a decent amount of strikeouts in their lineup. But I like Milwaukee today. It's one of my teams to target, actually, this whole game in general for tournaments. To me, this is the best game, in my opinion, to target for tournaments on the slate, and that's why I'm going to take advantage of it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely going to be lost on the slate. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that to expand on it, because we'll be talking about stacks soon enough after we knock out the pitchers. Obviously, we haven't said hello to chat yet, have we? What up, chat? Do like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff, and fire off some questions. Devin, producer extraordinaire, will be joining the show later. He's going to be compiling whatever questions or thoughts you guys have out there. The more details, the better. If you want us to elaborate on somebody, or why didn't you talk about so-and-so, or what do you think of this stack, or what do you think about these two teams that I can't, whatever you want us to talk about, or like even this guy or that guy, we're happily answer those questions. Let us know if it's for cash, for tournament, for a big tournament, for a single entry. All that stuff is helpful in answering the question. And like you said, for Gausman, the season, 29.2%, that's a pretty good number as far as strikeouts, but the last 30 days, he's faltered. It's down to 23.7%. The walk's still good at 6.1%. But, in Milwaukee, pretty contact heavy. If you like are big on like hitting the last 30 days, they've actually not struck out much at all in the last 30 days, 17.6%. Some of that has to do with matchups, obviously, who they're actually facing. And then, there was somebody I skipped, Andre. There's somebody I skipped as far as our ownership stuff. And I don't know if he's going to be as high owned. I'm curious. I'm really curious where this is going to land. Joe Ryan, just a very generic name. Joe Ryan is throwing baseballs against the Cubs. It's no secret to attack the Cubs. Joe Ryan, prospect of some sort, coming back in the Nelson Cruz trade. This is his major league debut. I believe he's 25 years old. Last 2 starts in the minor leagues, 4 innings and 5 innings, struck out like 8 or 9 guys each game. Good K stuff in the minors. And he's facing a Cub team that you can argue is kind of, sort of, somewhat a quad A team. And the best part is how cheap he is. So we have a 23% as far as the ownership. No, 28%. My apologies. That's a big number. He's 5K. And he's the clear and obvious cheapie. If you want to open stuff up as far as stacks, what are your thoughts as far as Joe Ryan?
I'm gonna have some exposure to him, but the game is also good for hitting weather. From what I looked at earlier today, so I'm gonna have some on both sides. I'm gonna hedge the field on that one. Just because I know he was, like you said, he was great in the minors, especially if you read Cheese's article. It's great, by the way. He mentioned that he was really good in the minors. And at 5K, there's no reason not to take a risk on him. But I definitely want to have some of both sides of this game. Even though we know the Cubs are not that great to have a great lineup, they have at times hit well and been the highest scoring team on the slate, which is still surprising. But I definitely do like getting to, like I said, both sides of it, and probably being at the field with Joe Ryan, and at the field probably a little bit over the field on the Cubs.
We do have an official Cubs lineup. Let's see if you have the K guys in there. You got one of the Romines who strikes out a ton. I'm not sure who Rivas is, but in a small sample, he struck out 42% of the time. Wisdom, we know the deal with Wisdom. He's like an all or nothing guy, 36% as far as strikeouts. Ortega, veteran, can make contact, but he's not necessarily a great hitter. Collectively, 27.2% as far as strikeouts. So, yeah, there's no DH. Obviously, the Cubs grab a DH, but there are plenty of Ks in this lineup. I don't know how far he'll go in the game. I imagine, 5, you don't need him to go beyond 5 necessarily if things are going reasonably well. The pivot down there, I'm curious what we have as far as the ownership. Jackson Cower is kind of, sort of, somewhat like Joe Ryan. He doesn't necessarily have the same matchup. It's not a terrible matchup, but just not as good. And he hasn't been good. This isn't his MLB debut. And in a cup of coffee, he's been bad, but he's also a big time prospect. Big boy too. I mean, if you want to just like move off of Ryan to Cower, I think that's okay. And we're seeing that in the ownership at 28% to 5%. If you have a really chalky lineup otherwise, that's a good way to be different. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts as far as Jackson Cower? Have you considered him?
No, I haven't considered him my ex-Summer player pool. I know he's the same price as him, around the same price as him, but to me, I'd rather go with someone who's been a little bit better in the major leagues and go with him plus I have enough bats where I want to be different in my lineups.
Yeah, I wanted to pull this up, and I get that. I'm pulling up on the fly. I wanted to see what he's done so far in the minor leagues. Let's see, 255 innings pitched, 281 strikeouts, 349 ERA. That's his career, but I think this season he's kind of excelled as well too. 115 strikeouts in 80 innings. And let's see, he has yielded 7 homers, ERA 3.46, AAA there, Omaha. Yeah, and I get it. He's not been great. Small sample, and he's not a finished product. But if your batters are different anyway, then who cares? Like you don't necessarily need to make this additional move. And I think that's kind of sort of it. We could talk about Fried, but who wants to really pick on the Dodgers? Steven Matz against Baltimore is fine. I think he's okay. But I don't think, Caprillion against Detroit, maybe, sure, possibly. He's kind of fallen back a little bit, and maybe he's hitting that rookie wall. He's never pitched this many innings in his life, at least as a professional. I don't know. Is anybody else worth your time here? Is what we're talking about as far as pitchers?
No, not really. Like I'm gonna have a little bit of Steven Matz just because it's Baltimore, but other than that, that's really it.
All right, give me the summary. Summarize how you're approaching pitching tonight.
In DK, I'm gonna play at least one of the two in my every single lineup, probably, as far as the Cole or Scherzer. Have a little bit of both, but also get a little bit of Sale and Rendon in tournaments. Be under more so on Rendon. So I like that. And Gausman, I like getting a little bit under on him too today.
Just pulling up Matt's. I wanted to see this Baltimore lineup specifically, this season, this actual lineup. And I think it's a pretty good K lineup, if I'm not mistaken. Well, there's some contact. Well, Jones in a small sample has been contact heavy. Mullen's pretty solid. 23.2% collectively. Matt's obviously not this great K pitcher. 21.9% in the season. All right, let's talk about stacks today. Let me pull up what we have as far as our consensus stacks. And you were talking about that San Francisco Milwaukee game, and that's one way to be different. If you're playing the chalk pitcher, if you're playing the guys that we talked about as our favorites, that's one way to use them differently, and few people will be doing it. We actually have consensus rankings: the White Sox #1 on the board, then Toronto. We forgive them for yesterday. Today they're facing Baltimore. Springer is in the lineup. He left the game last night with he was just rounding the bases and kind of came up weird. And he was actually surprised he came out of the game. He didn't want to come out of the game, but they subbed him out. Then the Yankees, Oakland, Minnesota, and Kansas City, which me and Headchopper rank Kansas City. I think they're kind of sort of somewhat interesting. But yeah, talk to me about how you're handling stacks tonight.
I'm gonna try to be obviously the top stacks are what they are, and they're good. Like I'm not gonna tell no one not to play Toronto. I still love Toronto. I still love Oakland. And I still love and I still love also getting to some of Minnesota too, as and the White Sox as well. But you want to be different in tournaments, whether it's them using them as your prime, whether it's using those top teams as your secondary or primary stacks. I think you want to pair them today with a low-owned secondary stack, maybe that no one's really thinking about, because there's still good hitters in these other lineups that can put the ball into play and hit home runs and potentially have GPP winning upside for you. So I'm targeting that today and gonna tend to try to be a little bit and try to be more heavy on using them as my primary stack as opposed to secondary stack.
What do you think of Boston? It's just kind of weird that like they're just lost on the slate. And there's a collection of pretty good hitters. I know they're dealing with some COVID issues, but Schwarber, Renfroe, Devers, JD Martinez, Verdugo, there's some legit upside. It's just going to be completely ignored. I know the ballpark stinks. Rasmussen's not a guy we're like afraid of. He's okay. Like he's been fine. They have a pretty good bullpen behind him, sure. But I mean, nobody's playing Boston. Are you playing any Boston? I'm probably not either. Like I don't expect them to crush, but they're just sitting there.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I might play maybe like two to three lines with Boston, but it's kind of hard to want to play Boston ahead of some of the other teams. Like you said, they have a good bullpen too, so that to me also limits the upside of the pitching too. And also depending on how long they're gonna keep Rasmussen's not gonna be in the game that long. So unless Boston can get can get hot, which they sure enough can as a team, and hit well and even be good against the bullpen, I can't see myself getting just a lot of them. I'll have a little bit of them, like I said, probably three lineups maybe in tournaments. Since they're going to be unowned, it won't be that hard to get over the field. I'm not maxing out today, but if I was maxing out, I would definitely probably try to get more like 10% of the field with Boston.
I was excited seeing that Adalberto Mondesi was going to be activated today, and kind of bummed that he gets a 7-hole at home. I guess they're not trying to rush him in or something. I'm not really sure, but he was playing. He played like 10 games or so in the minors. He was stealing bases. He was hitting homers in the minors. He's a really legit talent. Like a season-long guys were drafting this guy like in the first or second round. Of course, he's been injured a good chunk of the season. And Logan Allen has just been thrashed. 2.83 homers per 9. I know it's kind of a small sample, but 28.2% as far as 28.2 innings and 2.83 homers per 9. It's a little bit wonky because his homer in the fly ball is 30%, and that's probably due for some positive regression. But and also Sal Perez, I love Sal Perez, and we're not talking positions necessarily, but like Perez is so much better than everybody else at catcher. And of course, baseball, weird things happen, and then you'll take the field against Perez, but you don't know who's going to do it. But I wonder, as a tournament player, do you love seeing I don't know if egregious is the right word, just a big price on Sal Perez at 6.2K? Life comes at you fast, because I don't know how to handle that. But if he hits a homer, he's well worth it. Like, pay it up, and maybe he'll justify that right away. Like, well, I'm just curious what your thoughts on just Perez at that price. Do you gravitate to that? Because a lot of people just say, it's too much.
Yeah, to me, when it comes to baseball, I think I said this before, like price doesn't matter to me. So I'm playing anybody as long as they're in a good matchup. I'll play them no matter what the price is. And Sal 6.2K, that just means that no one's going to play him as much. So yeah, as a tournament player, I'm going to get more of them. And there's more of that team. So, and he's in a phenomenal match today. As you can see, he's going to be DK at 10% ownership. But to me, he's probably should be a little bit higher than that. He's the best catcher to me on the board. By far, but I understand people want to play price point and also get some other bats in their lineup. So even if you use them as a one-off with a little bit of a cheaper stack that's still in a good position, that can still work and have them at that 6.2K price. So to me, I love that. To me, there's nothing better than seeing an overpriced player still in a good matchup, and it's going to be low owned.
Yeah, I mean he's third in the league in homers. He's not like a good hitting catcher. He's just a good hitter. Third in the league in home runs, fourth in hard hit percentage, 13th, I believe, in ISO. I was writing them up earlier today. I'm pretty sure that's correct. That's from an article I wrote from the expert survey earlier today. And I think it's interesting because you start thinking in terms of lineups. Like I know Blender always talks about lineups. And it's like, if you play Sal Perez, there's a very good chance you're also playing Joe Ryan. I was just thinking like that, like maybe you're playing like Grandal. Okay, Grandal's not cheap on DK either. Perez much easier to roster on FanDuel. You don't have to roster a catcher in there, and I think some people kind of shy away from it, but like don't today. I think Perez is a really, really strong play. Toronto, you're okay forgiving him from yesterday. Today it's Matt Harvey, who hasn't been completely dreadful, but still Matt Harvey. It's still that bullpen. That ballpark is fine for hitting. What are your thoughts as far as the Blue Jays?
I don't know, man. They are Jekyll and Hyde for sure. Lately, they just have first half of the season they were hitting phenomenal, and second half they just been okay. I'm gonna have probably at the field with them for sure. I'm not gonna go over. They were very disappointing yesterday. But they obviously have powers up and down that whole lineup. So they should be able to get to Matt Harvey, but Matt Harvey has somehow pitched pretty decent lately, which was very surprising to me in his last couple starts. But I still think that you should roster them. I personally not gonna be overweight to the field on them. I'll be at the field with them. But anyone else can do whatever they want with that.
What about your Yankees? And again, I got it in my head that it's gonna be tough to hit the ball for the first 3 innings. So I'm kind of suppressing the Yankees to some extent. And that's probably a terrible idea. It's a bullpen game there, for the Angels. And the guy out there starting is nothing special. Their bullpen's nothing special. Iglesias, he's special. He's legit. If you get to Iglesias, you're in trouble. But otherwise, I don't think there's much going on individually. And the Yankees can bang out 5-6 homers versus anybody. Thoughts as far as the Yankees tonight?
Man, anytime the Yankees are popular to me, it's just run the opposite way. Do not play because they do not live up well to that performance. But today might be a little bit of an exception, I feel. They said a bullpen game against the Angels early in the day, like you said, with the shadow that you were talking about beforehand on the field. It's gonna hurt them a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna get to them that much later in the game. They should be able to perform, especially against that weak bullpen, which is not that great. I'll be probably a little bit under the field on them still, just because I don't like playing the Yankees when they're popular. That's just my little superstitious thing, I guess, with them. But I'll definitely be under the weight compared to what we have projected that their team ownership is supposed to be, which is really high, if not the highest team exposure on the slate today.
Their pen has worked hard for what it's worth. I'm looking at the Angels bullpen usage, and everybody in their bullpen pitched there yesterday or the day before. Some pitched, well, one guy, Iglesias. Oh, maybe that means Iglesias doesn't pitch today. Would they pitch him 3 days in a row when they're out of the division? I'm not sure. Just interesting. Maybe in a pinch, but they probably won't force it, right?
Yeah,
everybody else has pitched with the exception of a Packy Naughton. I just wanted to say Packy Naughton, who's drawn the start today. And, it's one of those misconceptions, oh, it's a bullpen game, attack. And usually no, bullpens are generally better than bad number 5 starters, bad number 4 starters. So, and if a guy's getting his face punched, then guess what? They just give him the hook and somebody else comes in. He's probably going to be better. They'll right the ship. Not always, but I don't know. I just feel like that's one of those misconceptions. I think bullpen games are not as attackable as it might sound.
Yep, I agree 100% with that.
Devin is compiling questions in chat. He'll be joining us shortly. Is there anything else you want to say as far as stacks that's worth noting? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know we've been touching on a couple of teams like Oakland. I think Oakland's a great stack to target today. They were great yesterday, which I should have been on them, and I had a feeling about them, but I didn't do it and pull the trigger on it. But like I said, the Milwaukee San Francisco game, Brett Anderson has not been pitching well lately, in my opinion. So to me, I want to attack him as much as possible. I know it's not really a hitter-friendly park in San Francisco, if I'm correct, but I still think they both sides of the plate can outperform with the 7.5 total that we have it at right now. So I look for that game to honestly go over. And I look to get some of those teams and use them as leverage and use them more so as a second, as a little bit of mixture of a secondary and primary, but probably more so as a secondary stack.
That's a good omen, right? We got the bark on the Oakland talk. Is that what's going on there? We're going to use that as a narrative street.
Yeah, you can use that as a narrative street. She's probably just hear something outside.
Something that I always talk about, and I bang the drum on this one, and maybe I talk about it too much. Maybe I'm too obsessed with it, but I'm obsessed with teams on the road, locked in for the 9th inning. And like you talked about Oakland last night, Matt Chapman had himself a good game. He banged out a homer, then he banged out a homer again in the 9th inning, and he wouldn't have had that if they were ahead. He wouldn't have had that. And that's sometimes, many times, and I'm sure when you're splitting the games, it's that last at bat that puts you over the top or that knocks you down. And look, if you put up 17 runs in the first 8, who cares? but I'm obsessed with that ninth inning at bat, especially, when you're on the road and you get that, especially if you're in the top 3 or top 4, you're probably going to get 5 at bats. Five's more than 4. And it's just, you might just throw it away. Who knows? What also might be the difference of winning and losing. All right. There's my little spiel. I got to get that one in there as far as play teams on the road. Devin, are you going to be joining us with some questions on behalf of the chat?
No.
What?
Dean, do you want to start us off with some cash breakdown before we jump into some questions?
Oh yeah, we can do that. Let's see. Yeah, we kind of touched on it before as far as the starting pitchers. Like, I don't know, you're playing the 2 stud starting pitchers, Max and Cole. I'm not playing any cash on FanDuel, but I believe Cole is a little bit cheaper. I'm fine with either one, but FanDuel's just a tighter squeeze, man. Like, FanDuel makes for a tougher game these days than DK. They just make it harder. So I think you're still playing one of those 2 for playing cash games on FanDuel. As far as catcher, we talk about wants versus needs. I really want Perez, but salary cap reasons, I can't get there in cash. I cannot imagine I get there. I'd love to. Don't think it's happening. Okay, stepping down to Aries Maguire, Higashioka, who probably draws the start. He's the personal caddy there for Garrett Cole. Why don't we have a Yankee lineup yet? We should. Do we have a Yankee lineup? Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah. He's in there, right? I'm assuming it's Higashioka. Yeah, he's batting actually.
Yep.
6th.
He's in there.
So, there you go. Good for him. Moved up in the lineup. Yeah, there's nothing you necessarily love here. Sean Murphy's perfectly fine as well, too. First base, Luke Voit is probably the best place to start. If you have the salary, love the White Sox today. Love Abreu. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I like him as a big spend, but I think it's a meaningful difference in salary. Luke Voit at 3.4K. They got Voit and Rizzo both in there. Rizzo's fine, but I prefer Voit a little bit cheaper. Depending on, you're playing Josh Harrison, I think, somewhere. Either second base or shortstop, I believe. Is it shortstop? Yeah, shortstop. I think you're playing him at one of those 2 positions. Third base, Josh Donaldson's a good salary cap guy at 4.2K. He's too cheap. I think Moncada is also too cheap at 4.5K. If Kevin Smith is in the lineup, you need a flat-out punt for Toronto. I've not seen that lineup for some reason, but if he happened to crack it, he's a perfectly fine punt. And as far as the outfielders, we're going back to Buxton. I know he was bad yesterday, but it was nice to see him try to steal a base. He got caught, but he's healthy enough to try to steal a base. Still way too cheap, 3.4K. Plenty of skills there. Luis Robert leading off at 4.4K. I like that a good bit. Salary savers, Michael Taylor, which I don't know if I recommended him all season long, but he's batting 5th versus a guy that gives up home runs, and he's not going to strike him out. And that's the perfect guy I want Michael Taylor against. And he's super, super cheap. If he needs some salary savings, good with him or a Kill Badu. Otherwise, yeah, Yankees. They're all fine. Stanton's not playing today. Judge, if you have the salary, not sure if I'm prioritizing that one bat. Eloy is cheaper than Judge. I probably prefer him. Teoscar, fine. And Corey Dickerson is another cheapie that kind of sort of somewhat works for you. And that's basically it. I think that's enough things. George Springer is fine too. I assume he's leading off.
Quick little golf clap for Dean, everyone. Hit that like button for Dean's cash breakdown.
There it is.
Let's get to some stacked games. Andre, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this one, right? We're doing a primary and secondary stack number now.
Yeah, got you.
All right, cool. So, Dean, start us off with the Giants.
Yeah, you're going to have to listen to Andre about this because I'm not really on that game, and Brett Anderson's not great, but he doesn't give up homers either. Darren Ruff is an interesting one-off, I suppose, but it's a team I'm probably going to ignore. I probably shouldn't be in big tournaments, but I don't really play that many big tournaments. I play the more concise one, the single entry stuff. So I will yield to Andre as far as the Giants.
I say 4-4.
All right. Andre, KC.
Oh, I love KC in tournaments. I'm going to say 5-5.
Yeah, I love them too. I'm not sure if we're on an island with that, but I think, and they're pretty cheap too, collectively, outside of a couple guys, talk about Perez. But yeah, I'm going to put a 4.75 on Kansas City against Logan Allen.
I love the technicals. Dean, get us with Cleveland.
I mean, you're supposed to stack against this rookie who hasn't been good so far, right? And Rosario was great yesterday. I said play Ramirez and Reyes, and Rosario went nuts, and whoops, didn't have him. Bradley's got some power too. I'll say a 3.
I'm at a 4-4 with them.
All right, Andre, Dodgers.
I really want to say a 5-5 in tournaments, but I'm gonna probably have to say like a 3 as a primary and 4 as a secondary.
Yeah, I mean, Max Fried is a big ground ball guy. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. And I know the Dodgers are great, but he probably doesn't get blown up. like the couple guys get there, but I don't think they crush as a stack. I'll say, yeah, a 3, just because they're the Dodgers. I respect the Dodgers, but I'm not necessarily, rushing to roster them. I understand why somebody would, though.
Oakland, Dean.
Love Oakland. Peralta's not good. That bullpen's not good. Locked in for the aforementioned 9 innings. That ballpark is sneaky good in Detroit. Like, it's better than people think. So I will say a 4.5 on Oakland.
I'm going to say a 5.5.
Nice. Andre, Chicago White Sox.
5.5.
Nice.
Yeah. Max Kranick. He's got a name like he's not going to be. He just doesn't sound like a guy. Who we're facing, Max Kranick. Come on.
The Max Kranick
of the famed Kranicks. Yeah, I like the White Sox too. I have them ahead of the Yankees. Yeah, even though they're playing at home and they only get 8 innings, well, we'll see. And I guess you want them to play 9 or 8 because that means they played really well, most likely. Yeah, I'll put it at 4.5. I like the White Sox a good bit.
So much qualifier. Dean, Yankees.
Well, it's also like I'm also like throwing in more information that we didn't like actually talk about, just kind of little nuggets, The Yankees, I'm probably gonna be a little less in the field, which is somewhat concerning. But we talked about Voit. I like him more as a secondary stack. How about that? I'll say 3.5, 4.5.
3.3.
Dean T in chat said he gave the same comparison you did with Johnny McEnroe with the headband I'm wearing.
There you go.
Let's see. Yankees. Did we touch on Yankees? Yeah, Toronto. All right, Andre.
Toronto, I'm going to say 4.4.
Yeah, Kirk back. Oh, I said the wrong catcher. Kirk is catching. My apologies. Don't play the backup catcher. It's not playing. Kirk is fine, but 3.9K, you don't necessarily need it. I imagine he's still like 2-3 or so on FanDuel, which is a fine punt. I say all that to say a 4 and a 4.5. Yeah, Harvey is still worth attacking.
You were talking about the ballpark, Dean, Detroit.
Yeah, I like Badu. He's, reasonable skills. Scope's fine. I don't love that Detroit team. It's more of a secondary piece thing. So it's 2 and a 4. I think they're good secondary pieces.
I got a 3 as a primary, and I got a 5 as a secondary.
Nice. Twins, Andre.
See, that game was good on weather in it too, so I like the Twins a lot. I'm going to say 5.5.
Yeah, Justin Steele has given up a fair bit of homers. These are small samples, obviously, but good ground balls, 52% ground balls, but over 2 homers per 9. But, he's been unfortunate as far as the home and the fly ball at 31%. Minnesota has a lot of good prices, especially on DK. So I understand why we're going to go there. Ref Snyder and Sano and Rooker, like all these guys can homer off the steal. It's more of a secondary thing for me. So I'll go 3 and a 4.5. I like the secondary pieces of Minnesota.
Baltimore, Dean.
Even Jeffers is a fine. Like if you need Jeffers in your cash game, whatever, he's fine. If you can't pay up for the ones you really want at catcher. Baltimore, let's see. Who do we have here as far? Yeah. Somebody's going to homer, right? Is it going to be Mountcastle? Is it going to be Mancini? They're probably going to homer or 2, maybe even Santander. But collectively, I don't think they crush. So I will say a 2.5 and a 3.
I'm looking at Baltimore. I'm liking them a lot more for tournaments. Matt's gets it up to righties a lot. I'm going to say, as a primary stack, I'm going to say a 4. As a secondary stack, I'm going to say 3.
All right, last one on the list, Andre, Pittsburgh.
0.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I would love to attack Rendon, but it's a 0. I can't do it.
And they have a great bullpen too. Like they're backed up by a great bullpen, and the Pittsburgh team is just so rough. It's hard to get excited about much there. Cole Tucker is sitting off today. It's like an interesting punt, I suppose, but. We talked about it yesterday. The best thing I think he's known for is dating Vanessa Hudgens. I think that's on his resume as number 1. I'm not sure if they're still together. I don't follow him on Instagram or anything, but that was once upon a thing. Maybe it's still a thing. I don't know. Good for him. No points are awarded for that on DK. Off the field points don't count.
Where's the Hudgens bonus?
Yeah.
Before we move,
go ahead.
Before we move away from stacks, I'm smelling the air a little bit here, Dean, and I think I smelled earlier a Chicago Cubs mush from you. Is that correct? Against a chalky Joe Ryan, is that correct?
I mean,
for me, because I'm playing Chicago.
I was gonna say because I think I might be getting some Chicago.
Oh, I mean, Austin Romine, Jason Hayward, Alfonso Rivas.
While you're talking, Dean, I want to pull something up. We were talking, I believe it was yesterday, we were talking about how bad the Cubs were too.
Yeah.
I count 1, 2 home runs, almost a third worth of points on that lineup.
Scoreboard.
Just saying. Maybe a mini snack. Let's get to some umps real quick. I'll put that on the screen share while we get to the next question.
I think it's Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole is an extreme hitter's umpire. I believe that's the only extreme we have, unless something's changed.
Good old Packy Naughton.
Yeah.
Alex wants to know, FanDuel single entry, will there be an ownership gap between Max and Cole, do you think?
Let's go ahead and check, but that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I'll give it a refresh on the screen.
What do you think of that, Andre? What do we? Is our ownership basically
well, I don't
tie?
know close right now, but if I'm a betting man, I think Cole comes in well above the field of Max Scherzer.
Is that right? I mean, because Scherzer's got the National League, he's got a pitcher to pick on. No Albies, I assume. I understand there's a ton of Ks in that Angels lineup. I think they both crush for what it's worth. I think they're both going to be really good tonight. That's my take, which is, I don't know how much it matters. I mean, one might get 12 Ks, one might get 8. I think they're both really good.
Yeah, I think they both really good and are going to put up good numbers. But I just think Cole's going to pull ahead a little bit. I just can see that because he's in a better matchup. That's the only reason why I can see it and see him pulling ahead. Besides being $300 cheaper, which matters a little bit, I guess, in baseball. But that's the only reason.
All right, next question comes from Green Wizard. Is anyone playing Max Fried?
No.
Any thoughts on
Fried? I really don't like the mid-tier tonight, and I don't want to pick on the Dodgers. Dodger lineup is out, by the way. No Will Smith, so it's a little bit weaker. Trey Turner, Muncy, Betts, Justin Turner, Corey Seager, Pollock, Taylor, Barnes. So on first glance, that's no Bellinger and no Will Smith. I think that's the main guys that are not in there.
Green Wizard, straight from Gauntlet Dark Legends, the arcade game. I don't know if either of you guys were a part of that.
I'm not aware of it, but it sounds exciting.
Jason wants to know, need 1 SP from DK below 7K. That's going to get 10 to 12 fantasy points.
Okay. Not asking for too much, right, Andre? 10 to 12. Who's going to get 10 to 12 fantasy points?
It's pretty
on DK
good.
Below 7K.
Jesus. I don't have anybody. Like you can hope that Joe Ryan gets there, but other than that, below 7K, I mean, you guys are hoping to dream. The only person I can see possibly getting there is, I don't like saying his name like that, but Matt Harvey, if he turns back the clock, but that's the only person I can think of that could possibly do it.
Is Kaprelian below 7K or no?
I think he's above.
The bat has one Drew Rasmussen at 9 points, 9.9 points, going against Red Sox. I don't know. Yeah. I could see that being contrarian.
And this is why Ryan's going to get, I think it's going to go all the way up or all the way down. I think that's the way people are going to build. Is that a reasonable assessment, Andre?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think. Well, actually, no. There's going to be a lot of tournament players. I think that's going to play some of the mid-tier guys, and take people in tougher matchups. You always see it every single day, but majority of them will probably just pay up and pay down, or pay double, spend up on the pitchers.
All right. Big Hurt wants to know FanDuel tournament's best contrarian SP.
They don't have Ryan, by the way. Ryan's not available on FanDuel for what it's worth.
So I would say the best contrarian, I'm going to say, is probably going to be Steven Matz, just because the bat likes him a lot. When I was running our projections earlier, he's coming out a lot for me. Probably because his price point, but he does have the upside against Baltimore.
That was my answer as well.
Yeah.
All right. Just 2 more questions. Peter in chat wanted to know what's our favorite Royals. So if you're stacking the Royals, what are you taking?
I mean, our favorite is Sal Perez, right? I think.
Top dollar, Sal Pal.
I like Mondesi too. I don't care where he's hitting. I love his skill set.
Yeah, I do too. And it's been missed. He hasn't been there in a while, so but I definitely like that. And Carlos Santana. All
right, Mike wants us to get some home run picks. Anybody want to hit some up?
I mean, Michael A. Taylor. There you go. Michael A. Taylor is going to bang one out tonight. Let's go with Mondesi as well too. Let's pick a couple Royals. I don't want to pull the Grant and pick all three, but you guys know I like Perez as well. And I'll pick a little more off the board as well. Let's go with Sean Murphy.
Is the Grant picking 3 and the Will picking the whole starting lineup?
Will, I don't know how many he got yesterday. He fired off like 12. I don't know how many.
It's like the whole White Sox team.
It's a great move, though.
Go ahead, Andre.
I'm gonna say Whit Merrifield is gonna bang one out today. I like, what's his name? Akil Badu. I like him. And then I'm gonna go with I'm gonna name one off the board here and go Gavin Sheets. I think he's gonna crank one out today.
Nice. All right, Dean,
Wow,
take us home.
I didn't see Gavin Sheets just playing today. Oh, where's he been? He's been injured or something? Was he in the minors? He was fun for a while. I totally forgot he was a thing. Good for him.
He got covered up by Byron Buxton.
I'm gonna throw out Miguel Sano. I'm gonna pull a Will and throw out one more just for fun. One of those Minnesota guys, if not two, we're gonna hit one off of Steele. 7:30 in an hour and change, a little bit less actually. We're talking NFL webinar. Myself, Justin Van Zuten, SDL Cards, head shopper, 2-time millionaire winner, Notorious. It's a refresher for those that are coming back to playing DFS. It's a great introduction to DFS as well too, especially to those states that are brand new to DFS. Hello, Arizona. Talking, introductory course, basically how to play NFL DFS. Check out the Rotogrinders Twitter feed or just on rotogrinders.com. You can sign up for it by invite only. Doesn't cost you anything. Just you need an invite link. Have at it. Join us. It'll be good times for sure. On deck is Crunch Time with Kevin Roth and 2 experts on Rotogrinders that I'm not aware of their name. Maybe it's Dave Potts. Maybe it's Tuttle.
It's Keith Eister and Justin Van Zuten from the aforementioned NFL webinar.
There you go. Charge is working double overtime tonight. We got to step aside and make way for Devin so we can set up that show. If you guys are premium members, have at it. Enjoy it. That said, we got to go. Enjoy your baseball tonight. That was Andre. That was Devin. That was baseball. That was Dean. We're out of here. Over.